In this series, we analyse teams, identify problem areas, and suggest solutions in the form of incoming players. We won't follow gossip, rumours, or conjecture. We're concerned only with the players' on-field performance and their suitability for the role in question. Today's team is Liverpool. Welcome to Sensible Transfers. Liverpool are in excellent shape heading into the new season. Sadio Mane has departed, but Darwin Nunez has arrived to preserve the attacking variety. Elsewhere, Fulham starlet Fabio Carvalho has joined, and Aberdeen fullback Calvin Ramsey has moved south too. Given Jurgen Klopp's range of options and the depth he's available across the pitch, there's no reason why the club can't go one better in the Premier League and in Europe with the current squad. So for this edition of Sensible Transfers, we thought we'd try a different approach and identify players that Liverpool should have their eye on or who would suit the way they typically recruit young talent. In the past, they've prioritised high-ceiling players who've also benefited from plenty of senior experience at a young age, and who also represent value and minimal financial risk, often by being close to or at the end of their contracts. Carvalho is a good example of this, as was Dutch centre-back Sepp van den Berg. Going back further, Dominic Solanke's signing conformed to this trait too, and so did the acquisition of Joe Gomez from Charlton. So that's a helpful guide, and we've chosen two positions across which those tendencies could be applied. Finding a backup to Fabinho is difficult, and it's harder still to find a long-term successor. One of the issues with the Liverpool version of the number 6 position is its balance between defensive security and ability on the ball. You need a player who can perform a traditional defensive function and also nullify counterattacks before they develop, and that's the kind of duality that tends most often to occur in older, more experienced players. Initially, young players are either very aggressive defensively or highly expressive with the ball, and rarely both at the same time, so searching for this kind of profile is not easy. Fabinho himself is a good example of that. He wasn't even exclusively a midfielder before arriving at Liverpool, and at Monaco during that season in which Leonardo Jardim's side enjoyed a run to the Champions League semi-final, he was a more dynamic player who found himself in the penalty box far more regularly than he does now. Today's Fabinho is an evolved version. So we're looking for someone who we can mould, who has the abilities to become a Liverpool number 6 of the future. And because of that, we've divided these candidates into two categories. We're selecting two players who aren't available at the moment, but who are excellent prospects and are worth tracking over the coming seasons. And one player who would be more immediately gettable. So first up, the unavailables. The first of which is Romeo Lavia, who has just joined Southampton from Manchester City. Lavia is interesting because he's commanded a big fee, around £15 million, despite having almost no senior experience to speak of. The Belgian was heavily hyped at youth level and spent most of the 2021-22 season as the deepest point of Manchester City's elite development squad. He's a very well-rounded player, and given the fee paid for him, he's expected to start alongside Aurel Romeu for Southampton almost immediately. City have a £40 million buyback clause, but he's still someone worth paying attention to. Someone else worth keeping an eye on is Aston Villa's Tim Iroegbunam, who's just turned 19 and made his Premier League debut last season. He arrived from West Bromwich Albion a year ago and is now on a contract that runs until 2027. That obviously makes him unattainable for now, but he's certainly one for the radar. Most recently, Iroegbunam was part of the England under-19 side that won their age group's European Championship, playing alongside clubmate Carney Chukwuemeka in midfield. Iroegbunam was strong defensively, good on the ball, and although the balance in his passing isn't quite right, he takes a few too many risks at the moment. That's a flaw which could be corrected in time. He's definitely someone to pay attention to. But our sensible transfer is Noah Mbamba, who's just won a Belgian title with Club Brugge. Mbamba is just 17, but managed over 500 minutes in the Europa League last season, as well as making a couple of substitute appearances in the Champions League. Now that experience at a young age would certainly satisfy part of Liverpool's criteria. He's defensively decent already and is a capable ball winner. At 187 centimetres tall and likely still growing, his size will be an asset too. Most of his minutes spent last season came as a lone number 6 in a 3-man midfield, but he also spent some time at centre-back. Together, those roles showcase not only his defensive strengths mentioned, but also a promising carrying ability. His passing remains a little too risky, a product of his youth most likely, and he's prone to turning possession over in dangerous areas. There is some suggestion that he'll renew his contract in the near future, but at the moment he's on a deal which runs until 2023, which would, as with previous deals for young players, suit Liverpool's recruiting style. Liverpool are well stocked at forward. In addition to Luis Diaz, Mohamed Salah, Diogo Jota, and now Darwin Nunez, Klopp could potentially use Harvey Elliott in an advanced position too. But we want one more, a young player with a high ceiling who could cover at least two positions. As before, we're also after players who've had a lot of experience early in their careers and, if possible, someone approaching the end of their contract. Wilfried Gnonto ticks all of those boxes. Gnonto is a former Inter Milan academy player who left Italy in 2020 and moved to Switzerland and to FC Zurich. Even at 18, he's just finished his second full season at the club, during which he and they won the Swiss title. He scored 8 times and was also capped by Italy at senior international level. He's now made 4 appearances, scoring 1 goal. In 2021-22, he had over 1,400 minutes in the league, playing exclusively in a striking pair. He's not really a centre-forward though, as evidenced by his playing on the left or right for Italy. He's short, just 170 centimetres tall, but he's a quick, foul-provoking player who dribbles well and who's active in wide areas. Despite a lack of data to support this, he's also a capable creative player too. Zurich are currently engaged in their attempt to qualify for the Champions League group stages, and if they fail to progress through the playoff rounds, he might leave the club this summer. His current contract expires in 2023, so even if they do reach the Champions League proper, he'll likely depart for free in a year's time. He's sensible transfer number 1. Number 2 is Rooney Bargi, who plays in Denmark for FC Copenhagen. Born in 2005, he won't turn 17 until later this year. But he's a product of the Copenhagen and Malmö academies and comes with an interesting backstory. He was actually born in Kuwait. He is eligible to play for Serie A and currently represents Sweden at under-21 level. Like Gnonto, he was also a league winner this season. Playing over 750 minutes during the campaign, he's left-footed but plays exclusively from the right-hand side, and while he's not much of a creator yet, he's a consistent goal threat and already an accomplished dribbler. What makes him unusual at this stage of his development, though, is his defensive contribution. His pressing performance is above average, as is his general defensive performance, including his willingness to support his fullback, which is a very rare quality in a technically proficient 16-year-old. He's also on an expiring contract, though his present deal runs until December 2023, meaning he isn't quite into his final year yet. The Danish league does begin in July though, so there is time to watch him before the Premier League starts again. So, 2 different options with slightly contrasting abilities and strengths, but 2 players to whom Liverpool should be paying attention as they continue their succession planning. If you'd like to see sensible transfers for your team, then you are in luck, because we've written sensible transfers articles for every team in the Premier League and published them on The Athletic. To read them, you can get a 30-day free trial for The Athletic by clicking the link in the description. Thanks for watching today's video.